G'day guys, welcome back to the garage. In this episode, we're going to be installing the big block Chevy into our 57 chassis. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in again. So, as I said, this episode we're going to be installing our big block 427 into our 57 chassis, which is now all painted and looking very lovely, very nice. And we do also have our transmission here, which arrived just a few days ago. This is a 4L80E, which was supplied by Steve up at Chevy in North Richmond. Hence to say it's built well and truly to handle more than 500 horsepower. We do have a 2800 stall converter that's going to go in it, and yeah, so that's about all I can really tell you. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll have a little bit of a look at this chassis before we go throwing the engine in. So we've got a really nice rack and pinion set up. It's a power rack and pinion from Retro Racks, a company out of Adelaide. And that's just a really nice unit, nicely polished up. As you would have seen from earlier episodes, we've got our whole chassis strengthener kit in here from Summit Racing, and we've got our RideTech parallel 4-link set up there. Still haven't finalised things with the diff. I did temporarily set it and tack it at 3 degrees, but I think that's probably something I need to redo. That's part of the reason for installing the engine and box and everything. I want to put the complete driveline in, get all the angles checked for them, and then work on setting this up so it matches in with the driveline, with the engine and box. So yeah, that's about it. So we'll get on and we'll get this engine ready. We're going to lift it up with the Frenner and go ahead and put the flex plate on and then match it up to the transmission. So we've got the engine hanging here ready to go. I've got to attach the flex plate, and I've got to install the torque converter. I might just read off this receipt, you know, what Steve did to this 4L80E. I may not understand it, but maybe somebody else does. So it's a 4L80E, it's a multi-parallel HO clutch package, 6 clutch forward and direct, 4 clutch intermediate, machine for Torrington bearing thrust versus thrust washers, input shaft, billet clutch hub, 34 element intermediate sprag, new bonded pistons, seal and gasket kit, bushings, bearing kit, low roller clutch, OD roller clutch, solenoids, internal wire harness, filter, spacer plate, and it's auto shift. So it's not fully manualized like I had in my John Goss, that was fully manualized. I sort of didn't really want this because I wanted to be able to have this as more of a cruiser. So this is auto shift, and it has the 2800 RPM stall converter, torque converter. So there you go. All right, so now we've done that, let's go ahead and we'll get this flex plate on. So I've got some nice ARP bolts here, nice new ones. Nice little head. I like these ARP bolts, they're beauties. Anyway, get them out. So that some recommend putting a little bit of Loctite on. I don't really think you need it, but anyway, we're just going to put a few little dabs of the blue Loctite on. Yeah, that's probably way too much. That's probably what we need, just one little drip. Would I know? I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. You don't have to follow me. Alrighty, so now we've just got to locate this on. There's only one way it can go on as far as orientation. You know, you've got that little dowel hole there, which matches up to that extra hole in the crankshaft. So I'll just get these started off and then I'll run them in. And then once you get them running, I think the torque setting is 60 foot-pound. And it would have been so much easier to install this on the engine stand rather than having the engine hanging in the air like this, but you simply can't. The engine stand's in the way. Alright, so those threads are all nice and clean. I'm just going to gently buzz them up. Whoop, I don't want to do that. So get our torque wrench, which is already set for 60 foot-pound. Yep. And make sure it stays there. Yep. I'm just going to do it in stages. There's your 60 there. It's a good idea to go opposite. Right, so next the torque converter. So it's not a good idea to stick your torque converter in dry, otherwise something nasty might happen, you know. So, but then you don't want to fill it up because you're just going to have oil everywhere when you try to put it on. So can't say, I'm not an expert, so I can't say for sure, but I'm gonna maybe see if put about a litre in. Just guessing. Yeah, it's about a litre. Is it?
It's got a measuring thing on the back of the bottle.
Oh, has it? That's pretty high tech, isn't it? Yeah, I don't want to put any more in because I'm just going to end up with oil all over the place. I put a towel down anyway. So we're going to make sure we get this thing on nice and straight when we're putting her in. So just wait for the clicks. Yeah, and then there'll be one more for the pump drive. Or did I just get the pump drive? I might have fluked it. No, I don't think I did fluke it. This thing wants to go backwards. There, got it. I think. So we've got 20 mil to that face. And it's only about 15. Oh, there. Wasn't quite in. Really take your time. You've got to be patient. You've got to feel it out, you know. Make sure it's right. So that's. Oh no, it hasn't really moved. I was imagining it. There. Got it. Like I was saying, you've got to feel it out. I mean, you can't just assume you've got it and then just whack it all together. Otherwise, something's going to go very wrong. So that's now showing us we've got 25. Whoops. 25 and 25. And then we were 20 to the edge of that, which is roughly the same as that surface. So we've got 5 mil, which means that when we bolt this up, like at the moment the torque converter is in hard, and when we bolt this up and we bolt the torque converter to the flex plate, it means that the torque converter is going to come back out 5 mil, which is apparently that's right. I know because I watched the Skid Factory. So, what are we going to do next? We're right, got that on. We are ready to make them. Is it okay to say that?
2023, nothing's
Sounds fine
okay
to me.
say.
It's not for kids. So, let's go ahead. I'll take that. You jump in the Frenner and drive forwards. We're in business. We've got these beautiful ARP bolts, stainless steel bolts. Love them. And okay, lined up fairly well actually. So I've still got to buy this dust shield, is it, that has to go over the bottom. And if anyone out there knows of a place in Australia that I could buy those, you know, the 4L80E ones, let us know, because I didn't do extensive checking, but I did a little bit of checking online, and the only ones I could find are in the States. So yeah, if anyone knows, let us know. Okay, so we got that and that. So these are 1/2 inch, so I'll quickly whack them up. I just use that impact driver. Yeah, so I don't really like using impact guns on mechanical stuff, but it's a big help if you've got to, you know, take up a bunch of thread before you're ready to torque it or whatever. Probably don't need to do a torque setting on it, you know. But anyway, we'll just do it just for the exercise. Cool. Another reason not to use those rattle guns on your mechanical stuff is you could easily go past the desired torque setting. I know that mechanics have the special like tools for doing up, you know, engine bolts and stuff, don't they? But that's not one of them.
No.
That's a roofing gun.
It's a roofing gun.
Alright, so we got that. So now the next thing is to do the actual bolts up for the converter. And so it's pretty easy to see in here, but the only issue I've got is I can't really turn the engine over, can I? Although would it be easier to do it here and now? It probably would be, wouldn't it?
This one lines up, but
Sorry?
There's one here that lines up pretty good.
Steve was telling me that you only need 3. He was saying if all 6 don't line up, don't worry about it. Just as long as you get 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So in other words, there's 6 there, so you need every second one lining up. All right. So a little bit of a camera malfunction. We've gone ahead and we've bolted the torque converter to the flex plate. I've just torqued them up to 40 foot-pound, and now we're ready to put our engine mounts on. We've got some lovely new engine mounts here from Rocket, so just going to go ahead and whack them on. And then I think we're just about ready to go, ready to install. Yeah, so what I was saying is they need to be a little bit longer, in my opinion. The bolt only sticks through about probably the width of the bolt on the other side of this plate, so that's all that's going in. It's, you know, not really enough, in my opinion. I reckon I'd like to see a good, I don't know, 13, 15 mil past the plate, but anyway, who knows. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and get them done up. I'll just torque them to the same as the flex plate, which is the same size bolt. I'll do them to 40. Oh, I'm not, but they're not staying, are they? I'm taking them off.
Yeah, they're coming off.
I'm replacing them, so why am I torquing them? Who knows? Just doing it for the exercise. Maybe I don't need to take them off.
It seems says 1.5 times and it's coming.
Well, it says 1.5 times the thickness of the bolt thread, or 1.5 times the thickness of the bolt, or threaded part of the bolt.
Yeah.
I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah, it's got a little bit longer.
Yeah, probably what will happen, since I'm torquing these up, I'll just forget about it and we'll just run with these. All right, done. So we're good to go. So we can't go ahead and lift it the way it's slung at the moment because she'll be transmission heavy, and that'd be fine if you were trying to thread it for an engine bay, but we're not. So I just want to lift it level. So I'm going to see, can we just use a little come along and try not to mess everything up on our engine. You're gonna play ball. Oh, okay. And in the upper position, and we should see this coming off the ground, coming off our stand, maybe. Is it?
It's coming.
Okay,
It's off.
we've got some lift off there. Okay, cool. Well, that's no good. These are supposed to be for a 57 Chevy, but if they are, they've made it for a car that doesn't have any type of bracing at all. Yeah, not much good. And I guess the other one's going to be exactly the same. Can you grab it? Yeah. Just sitting on the lounge in the reception. Okay, let's see what these do. Just going to do the same thing. So that's where the problem is. Take it off here and then like reduce it down or angle it down or something. So it's telling me I've got 3.8 degrees on the crank. I wish it was less. I guess the only way to get it less would be to put a spacer under the gearbox. All right, well, we got her in. We were very close to the rack and pinion, but we did notice that we had way too much angle on the engine. I think we were at 3.7 degrees, and I wasn't happy with that. I wanted to be under 3. So what we ended up doing, and bearing in mind that we're only, putting this thing down on the mount that came with the strengthening kit. So what I did is we lifted it up and I've put a 15mm spacer in there and then went back and checked the crank angle, and it's 2.5 degrees now. So I'm pretty happy with 2.5 degrees. I think the next thing I might do is go ahead and I'll put the front suspension components on. So I've got the whole RideTech setup for the front. So I think I'll go ahead, I'll put all that together and then we'll come back to you. Alright guys, so I'm just about to install these control arms, or as RideTech call them, strong arms. So they are pretty beefy. That's your lower one, then your upper one. Sorry about the road noise. It's just too hot in here to put the door closed at the moment. So yeah, so, and they tell you to use your original hardware, your original bolts, which I've got here, but I'd rather have new ones. So we've got this really great little bolt shop down the road called FAB, Fasteners, Bearings and Engineering Supplies. So they gave me the replacement bolts in they're high tensile, even though they're zinc coated or CAD coated. They're high tensile and they are imperial. And I got 12 of the long ones and 6 short ones here for the engine mounts, which I am going to replace, I decided. And really, like with bolts, spring washers and nuts, I reckon it's not too bad. $27 for the lot. So that was really good, and they're a really handy bolt shop. Anytime I need something, we can always get it from there, so that's great. Anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll start putting these on. I think I'll start with the lower ones first. So just go ahead and drop our bolts into position. Always looks better when you use new hardware. Okay, so grab a couple of spring washers and nuts just to begin. Oh, so that's passenger, drivers. Okay, it gets confusing because obviously everything's been marked as though this car was in the US. So your driver's side is now your passenger side. So get them up there like that. Now these upper ones do require some sort of shimming, but I absolutely did not take any notice when we pulled the old one apart. So I'm just doing what sort of seems to be right for the time being. And these may not be proper shims, but they're good solid washers, so let's hope that's okay. So I've just done it so that it looks as though it's sitting right. Anything else in, like, one edge of this kind of like digs into the mounting surface. So okay, all right, I'll whack them up. I'll do them up. Beauty. So what's next? Well, I need to put the coilovers together, so I'll just go ahead and get the control arms on the other side, and then we'll go ahead and assemble the coilovers. These are the rear ones, which we did in that last episode, so there we have it. Now then, how does this work, he says. Could read the instructions. I'm thinking that goes down like that. This comes down from the top and clips in there. That goes up like that. Then you put your Delrin washer on like that. I think these are pretty much the same either way, but I'll put it so that the writing is up the right way. I never thought of that last time. No, the writing's upside down on that one. And the writing's upside down on that one. Well, there you go. You know, it's details that count. Okay, so that's that way, so put that like that. That's going to bother me so much, I'm going to turn those around. Okay. Like that. Another Delrin washer there. And then, oh, we need to put our anti-seize on. I might just put it inside this. Just a little bit in there. So that like that. Put that on there like that. Has a little plastic spacer in there that keeps it, you know, a little bit chocked open. Make sure our little plastic washer marries up to, yep. Okay, coilovers are made, so we should be able to go ahead and whack them on. And what do we have to do? I guess we're going to have to take off that little buddy. Come on, mate. Come off. Come on in. Yes, no? Oh, I had one prepared earlier. Here he is. It's a special one. Cap comes off like such. Okay. So he comes off, that comes off, that's there, okay. Well, that wraps up the installation of the upper and lower control arms and the coilovers, and I've got my 2-inch drop spindles on. The only other thing I've got to do to this front suspension setup is install a sway bar. So I've got this big chunky sway bar here that's got to go in. However, I do need to drill some holes through the bottom of the chassis. Apparently 55 and 56s have a rivet that you can take out, which it talks about in the instructions here, but 57 there is no rivet, so we've got to basically place them. The front of that bracket goes 5 inches from the front edge of the chassis, and 1.5 inches in from the side. So I'm just following their directions in Imperial. So I'm going to go ahead and work that out, get them clamped on, and go ahead and drill the hole. Alright, got the mounting plates on. So now I'm going to go and grab the sway bar. We'll get these bushes on and we'll get them mounted. Dust off. Oh yeah. What am I missing? Oh, okay, I'm missing the bump stop, so I've got to put a bump stop up here, bump stop down there. But apart from that, the bump stops, and then the, oh, okay, so I've got to hook up something for the steering. Okay. So, well, that about wraps it up for the chassis for the time being, I think. And but I am pretty happy with how it's all turned out. This RideTech gear is, you know, it's pretty good. Nothing ever goes perfectly, obviously, but you know, if you persevere and you know, you look for answers, you'll find answers. So, as I say, that pretty much wraps it up for the chassis for the time being. I've got everything set, like I've got my engine set at 2 degrees, I've got my diff housing set at 2 degrees in the ride height position, by the way, not just any position, ride height position. Ride height position being top of the diff tubes, or the axle tubes, top of the axle tubes to the bottom of the chassis, 4.5 inches. That's recommended by RideTech as being ride height, work from that. So we've got our 2 degrees, so that's all tacked up. I'll send that back to Craft Diffs, and we'll get that welded up and put together. We'll get, you know, the diff head and the axles put in. And then the only other thing which remains unresolved is that issue with the headers. A couple of ways around it, I guess. One way I guess I thought was we could do away with the idea of having that bolt up flange, and we could cut the collector tube a little bit shorter and then just weld a reducer on it and go straight into the pipe. Or we could cut the cut a little bit off the collector and move the actual flange back, so that this ends up dropping down where the collector was heading here. If we could move that join back, then we'd have something like that. That may work, so I don't know, but I'm going to play around with it, not in this episode but in another one. So that about wraps it up. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't already, please think about subscribing, and all you guys that have subscribed, just hit the notifications button so that you don't miss out on the videos when they come up. So appreciate you all. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.